In this video, I'd like us to begin to explore what we mean by project management. And looking at this question here, I reckon I know what you're thinking. I mean, isn't project management just managing projects? Well, yes, I'm not going to argue with you on that one, but there is a bit more to unpick here. So let me give you a definition. Project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. Now, we will be learning more about that knowledge and techniques and whatnot as we progress through this course, but you will be pleased to know that I didn't make this definition up from my head. No, it comes from the PMI guide. This is the Project Management Institute's Guide to the Project Management Body of Knowledge. It is a hefty tome, and it's one that you will probably have to hand if you're interested in certification from the PMI, and I will be using it as my reference throughout this course. So basically, if you practice project management, you're trying to achieve the project objectives whilst balancing the scope and the schedule and the costs and risk and quality and resources, and we will talk more about that balancing act later on. So when project management is done well, we can enjoy a whole host of benefits, including, for example, obviously, increasing the chances of a successful outcome. And what does success look like? Well, it's going to mean that we've met the objectives and we've delivered the right products at the right time and we have satisfied those stakeholder expectations. And good project management also helps us to be more accountable. We'll be more predictable. We're going to be better able to resolve issues and respond to risks. And finally, we'll have the insight to be able to manage constraints and manage change. We'll be able to optimize the use of the organizational resources, and we're going to be able to identify a failing project in order to either attempt to recover it or terminate it. But with poorly managed projects, or I suppose situations where we don't have any project management at all, well, frankly, there are lots of negative possibilities. We might miss deadlines, or we might go over budget, or we might end up with low quality output which needs rework, or we might find our reputation is damaged and that we've got dissatisfied stakeholders. And ultimately, it's likely that the project won't have as successful an outcome as we would have hoped. Now, if you've ever been involved in formal project management, you will know that it has a tendency to create a tremendous amount of information, which you may or may not love. But there are some terms which are worth defining. Firstly, data. Now, this is the raw data, the unprocessed facts about the project and how it's performing. And this isn't always that useful. It's pretty daunting, it's columns upon columns of plain old figures, for example. So we need to process and analyse that in order to turn it into useful information, meaningful information that gives us insight into how to use resources and what tasks are overdue or whatever. And then we communicate that information to the folks who need to know through reports, and that's going to be dashboards and status reports and whatnot. Now, the reason why I've pulled this out is that I think sometimes in casual conversation we have a tendency to use these three terms, data, information and reports, kind of interchangeably. But in the context of project management, they do represent different stages of processing. And actually, you'll likely hear the terms preceded by the words work performance. So work performance reports are based on work performance information, which in turn is the analysis of the raw work performance data. I'm now kind of wondering if I've made a bit of a meal of this, but they are quite important distinctions to make. So, your homework. Firstly, make sure that you are happy with that definition of project management from the PMI, the application of knowledge, skills, tools and techniques to project activities in order to meet project requirements. And then secondly, I'd like you to think of a recent project that you've been involved in or aware of, and this could even be a home improvement task, it doesn't have to be work related, but I would like you to identify where the lack of project management limited the success of the project. Was a deadline missed or was the budget blown or whatever. And then finally, start being more mindful about the differences between the terms data, information and reports, and try not to use them interchangeably because they do have different implications in the context of project management.